share because I need to fill this out all the way. Match this.
Guess we'll get started. It is 5 after 1 or 6 after 1. Depends on whether Rick's watching it or we're watching it, whether it's 5 or 6 or 4. Yeah, okay. Well, welcome everybody. Jim Godfrey, Chair of the CAC. So let me start off. I've missed this. I think when we look at online, we have a quorum. Getting a head nod. So let me start off by reading the purpose statement of the Citizens Advisory Committee. Primary objective of the CAC is to ensure the capital maintenance and public transportation projects and programs approved by the voters at the November 2nd, 2004, November 6th, 2012, and November 7th, 2017 ballot measures are accomplished with PPRTA funds. Committee reports directly to the PPRTA Board of Directors. All right. So Rick, voting members, or alternates, yes, no?
All alternates can vote,
All alternates vote.
but can we double check on late arrivals? Is Tamara Dipner on? Karen Aspelin? Dave Zelenak?
Hi, this is Dave
Stephen.
Zelenak. I'm on my phone today.
Oh, Dave there. All right.
Okay. And Stephen Hart?
He's here.
Oh, he is? Okay, great. Okay, we're in good shape.
All right, very good. So moving to item 2, approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda that was presented in our packet?
Hey, this is Dave Zelenak. I would move to approve.
All right, so we got 3 approved. So was one of the people want to approve second, Scott? Okay, thank you, Scott. All those in favor of approval of the minutes as presented in our packet, say aye.
Aye.
Yeah, all those opposed, say nay. All right, very good. Thank you.
Quick reminder to make sure to turn on your mic if you're in the room with us here so that those on Zoom can hear you when you're talking, and those on Zoom, if you can turn off your mic when you're not talking so that we don't get your background noise. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, item number 3, public comment for items not on the agenda. Everybody got your hands raised? I'll save mine for communications. I have one not related to the CAC, so I'll save that for later. Seeing one, we'll move on. Seeing none, we'll move on. Item number 4, approval of minutes from the February 2nd meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
Scott, so moved.
Scott?
Second, Ed Dills.
Ed Dill, second. All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Okay. Minutes carry. All right. Financial reports. Rick, you going to cover Bev's report? Oh, Bev's on. Hey, Bev, missed you. Sorry.
Sorry, I needed to unmute. Okay, let's see. Down a little bit more. Okay, perfect. So December, we received 13,818,000, which was 497,000 more than the monthly budget, or 3.7% over the budget for the month. And we're 8,763,000 over the budget, the amended budget for the year. But the real story is compared to last year, actual, and we're 2,356,000 ahead for the month, which is 20.5%. or $25,615,000. So that's really healthy. I don't know that 2022 is gonna look quite as robust as last year with what's going on with the Ukraine and what that will probably mean for the world economies.
Bev, do you want to briefly cover what was covered at the board meeting about some pending legislation? Do you want to mention that or not?
Well, let's let Rick do that, but
Okay.
is there a section for that or a item for that this time? I don't know if there is.
All right, we'll cover it in board highlights then.
Yeah, well, I don't think the legislation is going to come forward, so Rick can kind of explain it. It's not as obvious that it's going to move forward, so.
Okay. All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thanks.
Any questions for Bev on the financial report? Anybody?
Yeah, this is Carlos. I did have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Carlos.
Well, not really a question. This is a comment. Well, actually a question here, but we also know when we're going to cover, our revenue streams, one of the concerns the community has is inflationary pressures as well. So, we do see that, year over year, we're bringing in more revenue. In this case, for closing out 2021, we're 21% over. But how much is that, due to just increases in inflation, adjusted for inflation? So that might be something to consider as part of the reports if that actually becomes a significant factor in our revenue projections is inflation.
Well, it is a significant factor, but I don't know what the inflation figures for the items being purchased are per se. I mean, obviously cars, building materials,
Food.
washer, dryers, huge inflation, right? So we're going to see that. And then there's more people coming to Colorado Springs that live here now than did. And we see that. And, but as far as what exactly the inflation number would be for the different basket of goods that has a tax on it, I don't know. It's not insignificant, for sure.
Presumably, if I did want to do my own calculations, I could certainly do that, but I just don't want to be, we're 21%. Hey, it's a windfall, when it really may be misleading in that really it's population increases. And tell me about population. I know a lot about our changes for demographics and population increases here in Colorado and Colorado Springs. But also just understanding that, putting that in some kind of context. But I can certainly do that if I'm interested, but I just wanted to point it out that, we don't want to be jumping up and down. Whoa, we're 21% over, but maybe tempered with some other
Well,
factors.
I mean, think about the flip side of this. Our costs for construction and design and everything are way over also. I mean, people think that generally this is good information, and it is generally, but our costs are so much higher than they would have been a few years ago.
Oh, I was looking forward to calling you Good News Bev for the rest of 2022.
Oh yeah,
don't burst my bubble here. But no, thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
I'm just trying not to become bad news, Bev, but I don't really have any control over that.
You got a long ways to go, Bev, so you're on good terms.
I don't know.
so
There
far.
was a year I was bad news, Bev, but it's only really been one good year since I started 17 years ago. So we
Thank you
said
so much.
something.
Thank you
Okay.
so much. Excellent report.
All right, any other questions for Bev? All right, let's move on to item 6, capital maintenance and public transportation contracts. City, are you going to lead off for us?
Yes, Gail Servant, City Engineer and Deputy Public Works Director for the City of Colorado Springs.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. We have 9 contracts today. I'll be going over. The first is for the Wooten Road Bridge replacement over Sand Creek. The city did go out and for an invitation for bid and received 6 bids for that project. This project is funded primarily by HUTF funding and with some emergency bridge fund work in there. We are going to be asking for PPRTA to basically allow us to include $505,971.25 of emergency bridge fund in the contract, with the understanding that Colorado Springs Utilities will be reimbursing us $372,000 for that work. I will mention there is a location map in your packet for the location of this bridge. And as we were just talking about increased construction costs, we are starting to see increased construction costs, as Bev was alluding to. And even though we received 6 bids for this project, they were all clustered together and they range between 25.4 to 36.1% over the engineer's estimate. And if you recall, our bids had been coming in pretty close to engineer's estimates the last couple of years. So I think we're really starting to see some of the effects for inflation and supply chain and staff shortages. Any questions on that particular contract?
Administrative note on the change order dollar amount under the HUTF funds. There's an extra zero
Oh,
after the
you're
2.
absolutely right. Yes, it's only 1.2 million, not 12 million that comes from HUTF. Thank you for that.
Gail, this is Ryan.
Yes.
Just a quick question on the bridge. Do you know, with the unit costs, which unit costs you're seeing the biggest influx in price? You know, I know steel has been shooting through the roof, and as we're hearing, it's starting now to actually drop back down.
Concrete.
But I didn't know if you had a handle on which unit costs were so high.
So in this particular case, I didn't happen to look at this one to know which unit costs happen to be high in comparison, but I know my team has. I will say where we're seeing cost increase in general has really been in concrete, and we actually have some concerns related to like aggregate material that's going to be going in our asphalt paving. Steel, we like you, we've kind of seen the fluctuation and we've been kind of hit or miss on that particular cost, and we don't use tons of steel, so that one hasn't been a huge factor for us. I also see some of the delays in getting materials for our utilities. That's going to increase our overall cost just because of the overall construction duration and that coordination and timing and trying to get materials there. So I'd be happy to look into more unit cost information, Ryan, but I don't have that with me.
No, that's totally fine. Thank you for that clarification.
Okay, no problem. All right, moving on to the second contract. It's for the Pikes Peak Greenway Trail. This segment of work is being completed there by the Cottonwood Creek and Monument Confluence down to Rock Rimmon. This is a change order for construction management, public engagement, and additional material testing for Felsberg, Holt, and Oliveg in the amount of $71,622. If you recall, when we first brought this forward, for this construction work, we originally thought we were going to be able to start in April of 21. Due to some environmental concerns with the Prebles Meadow Jumping Mouse, that that construction start was delayed until October. Also, there was some additional grant funding, which allowed us to do a little bit more work. So all this is really as a result of the additional work and the additional time for coordination and a lot more public engagement kind of surrounding those items.
Trail looks nice.
Yeah, thank you very much. Steve, I think you're on. I'm sure you're glad to hear that. The next contract is for intersection improvements at the intersection of Union and US 24. This is actually a maintenance contract where we're using our hazard elimination and safety improvements allocation. That way we manage the maintenance funds. And we're doing this work in conjunction with CDOT. We did receive 3 bids for this work. For the CDOT's portion of it, they will be contributing $245,000. That means the remainder for PPRTA funding would be $1,146,977.40. And we're recommending award to Pyramid Construction for that. There is a location map included in your packet. And like the Wooten Bridge project, these bids were even higher than the engineer's estimate, with the lowest being 47.2% over the intersection or over the engineer's estimate for this work. Questions on that item?
Yeah. Carlos, I can't, okay, yeah.
Oh, Mr. Chair, thank you so much. Yeah, yeah. A question really on the right of way. Is all this construction being done, being performed within the right of way of CDOT? CDOT's right of way?
No, it's not all of CDOT. It's mostly city right away on Union. Their portion is really where they have the interface with that ramp as it leads up to Union.
So that's on city property, that where the ramp ends there at Union. Is that right? Around there with the sidewalks and the pedestrian access? Because I know there's also going to be some improvements, or at least it says so in the package here with.
Yeah, there are going to
with
be
that.
improvements. And, you know, honestly, I'd have to go and look at where the A line is for CDOT and what becomes city property. I know it is a combination of the efforts. CDOT is really paying for their 1/4 of the signal itself, and the city is paying for the other 3/4 of the signal, plus the pedestrian improvements in that area.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, the city's fourth contract is for the Centennial Boulevard extension. If you recall some of the history in this project, MBS is a property owner and a company up in that area that they have a voluntary cleanup program in place where they've been cleaning up a landfill. Plus, they have an agreement not only to do the cleanup, but they were doing a lot of earthwork for the city in preparation for the Centennial Boulevard Road itself. In part of that agreement, it had a provision that if they encountered unforeseen environmental conditions, that they would be reimbursed for that. In the process of the cleanup, when they removed an old water line, it did contain asbestos, and it did require special removal and disposal. So we agree under the provisions of the agreement that we should be providing $15,581.65 to MVS for that additional cleanup. Any questions on that item?
Yeah, I remember the discussion around that agreement.
Okay. I'm going to move on. This is another Centennial Boulevard extension project or contract. As part of that roadway extension, you know, we've been tons of collaboration with Colorado Springs Utilities already going on with that. And they had already designed and planned to put an 8-inch water line in there. As they went through and did some of their other regional water modeling, they decided it would make more sense to take the time and expense now to upgrade that to a 20-inch water line. So we are, this is a change order to SEMA Construction in the amount of $1,281,926.84 to install 2,300 linear feet of that 20-inch water line. So with this upgrade, this is an additional cost to the contract. Colorado Springs Utilities will be reimbursing PPRTA for that work, and they have already reimbursed 1.1 million of that into the project account. And there's another approximately 174,500 coming. Any questions on that item?
Do you just happen to know what the difference in gallons per minute or hour, that 8-inch to a 20-inch?
Well, you know, I used to be able just to whip that out, but I cannot anymore. I apologize.
No, that's no problem. I didn't expect you to have the answer. I was going to say it's a huge, I expect you to just go, we're going to go to a 12-inch line or a 15-inch line, but that's a huge jump. So
anyway, yes. So I'm going to move on. I'm actually going to talk about contracts 6, 7, and 8 together. These are actually somewhat of a repeat for you guys. They are maintenance contracts for crack seal, and we did these originally. You can see that we had 1.25 million to A1 chip seal, 500,000 to Elite Surface Infrastructure, and 750,000 to Seal Coat Solutions. The reason why you're seeing this again, when they were previously processed, they were processed as change orders. These are being brought to you as task orders, still with the same terms as before. What this really does is really helps us with the bonding situation with the contractor. So with the change order, it doesn't come aggregate over a multi-year contract. They can really provide bonding just for the year until the work is accepted. Much more favorable terms for the contractor and for the city. Any questions on those 3 items? All right, the last one is also a maintenance contract. This is for thermoplastic materials, or basically striping materials. The city went out for proposals, and we received 2 proposals in response. We're putting an on-call or task order based contract in the amount of $200,000 with Enos Flint to provide those materials to the city. Any questions on any of those contracts?
Seeing none online. All right, if there are no further questions, do I hear a recommendation to, oh, Scott, sorry.
No, I was just gonna move to approve all as presented.
Okay, thank you,
Second.
Scott.
This is Tamara Dipner and I second.
Okay, was that Ryan or Tamara? Tamara?
Dipner.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Seeing none or hearing none, motion carries. Thank you, Gail. All right, let's move on to 6B, the county.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Jennifer Irvin, County Engineer, and good afternoon to the rest of the CAC. Today, we have many contracts for your consideration. In regards to, this is mainly our maintenance contracts for the year, so I'll go over them just briefly. The first one is our 2022 concrete contract. This is our concrete contract was done in 2021. This is the 1 year with four, oh, sorry, I misspoke. I'm sorry, starting over. So this is a contract that we already have, and it has 4 renewal options, and this is our 4th renewal option with this contract with this vendor. And the amount is not to exceed $5.5 million. The second one is our 2022 overlay contract with Martin Marietta Materials for not to exceed for $7.5 million. This is our second renewal of our 4-year contract with Martin Marietta, and this will be our paving contract for 2022. And then our 2022 crack seal contract with a not to exceed amount of $1.86 million with American Pavement Solutions. This is a 2021 contract and it has 4 renewals. And this is our first year renewal with them. And the 4th item is our cover coat aggregate contract with Schmidt Construction. This is for our chip seal program. This is the material for our folks to be able to do our chip seal program. And this is for $500,000. And then our next contract is our 2022 aggregate maintenance material. And this is really the materials for our highway division to do our graveling program. And this is for $80,000. We award contracts to Martin Marietta Materials, Pioneer Landscape, Schmidt Construction, TZAC, and Green Dream. This allows us to, as we're developing our program, to contract with the best available material for that specific location with the shortest hauling distance for the overall program. So that's why we have several vendors for that. And the total contracts of those with those vendors will not exceed $80,000. And then our next contract is for our 2022 asphalt paving material. This is for our patching and potholing program and is material for our highway division as well to do the work. It's for $200,000. And we have a 2018 contract, and this is our 4th renewal. And again, we award it to several different vendors. In this case, Kiewit, Martin Marietta, and Schmidt Construction. This allows us to utilize an appropriate vendor based upon the distance and the best available contract rate at the time. And then our 2020 crack seal material, and this is with Maxwell Products, Inc. This is for $60,000. We had a previous vendor for this contract and they went out of business. And so what we did is we looked around for the best price and we found that CDOT had a contract with this vendor with a really good price. And so we're going to go and piggyback on that existing CDOT contract. And then similarly for our 2022 emulsified asphalt, and this is the oil for the chip seal program that our folks do. Again, this is materials for our highway division to do our chip seal program for $1 million, and that is with Suncor. Again, this is a CDOT contract that we piggyback off of because of the volume that CDOT does. We're able to get a very good price for that. So with that, if there are any questions about any of these contracts, I'd be happy to answer those.
Any questions for Jennifer? Oh, Scott?
Jennifer, do these contracts lock in the unit costs for the year?
Oh, for the year?
Mhm.
Yeah, we will be locking in those. We do have some negotiations that we're still doing. Essentially, what we're doing right now is getting a not to exceed, and then we'll finish those negotiations and lock in those values for the year. But yes, absolutely.
I've got a curiosity question. On the crack seal, and it actually would be a question for both of you. Does the size of the crack dictate that it's some material added into the crack before you fill it up with asphalt?
Yeah, and we also look at the size of the crack, the type of material on each side. And so depending on the size of the crack, you could have a different treatment. So if you look at our contracts, at least the county contracts, we have different types of materials in those contracts. And also we have the ability to purchase different types of materials for our own crack seal program. I don't know if Gail wants to add anything else.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, and Corey Farkas, if you want to jump in and add too, but we actually have two separate programs that we run because we identify larger cracks where we actually have to really essentially go out and rebuild that
Right,
interface
yeah.
between that same, or we can do some more your standard application of material. So we look at it kind of a twofold or two different types of programs. And Corey, I don't know if you wanted to add anything else onto that for Scott.
It was when I first moved to North Dakota, it was really weird. They used to take toilet paper after they put the stuff down. They had a guy roll along and they put you ride down the highway and you see all these white stripes all over everywhere. You couldn't figure. It took me forever to figure out what we were doing, but that it looked weird. So, but I guess it added fiber to the oil or something. I'm not sure.
Mr. Chairman, with that comment, I move the approval of all of these.
Richard has a motion to
Yeah, and
approve.
this is Dave Zelenak.
Go ahead, Dave.
Zelenak here. I'll second that motion.
All
I
right.
just want to second the motion.
All right. Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the county's request for contracts, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you, Richard and Dave. All right. Item number C, PPRTA contracts for engineering cost estimates. Mr. Rick.
Good afternoon. As you'll recall, the board set aside a little over $1 million for engineering cost estimate program with an initial 500,000 allocation being made available to the member governments. The city brought forward through me 3 contracts last month, and the county brought forward 1 contract last month. Those 2 were recommended for approval by the CAC last month and approved by the board last month. The board, when they allocated the 500,000 out of the $1 million, also invited additional requests for additional allegation amounts, and the city made a request for an additional 150,000. The board approved that recently, and so the city has forwarded an RFP to me, which I forwarded to Basis Partners for cost estimating for 4 additional bridge replacement projects with a fee of $59,882. City staff has reviewed the response proposal from Basis Partners and recommends it to PPRTA staff, and I'm recommending it to the RTA CAC for a positive recommendation to the board.
Any questions for Rick on these cost estimate contract? Seeing no hands, do I have a motion to approve the request as presented?
So moved.
And Ryan,
Okay, Joan so moved. Who's gonna, Ryan, you gonna second?
yes, second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you very much. Right, item number 7A, transit services update. Good afternoon, Brian, again.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me, Brian Vituli. I'm the Transit Planning Supervisor with the City of Colorado Springs Mountain Metropolitan Transit. With your monthly
Brian,
report. Yes.
Brian, this is Larry. I have a question for you before you get started. Over the last year, year and a half, several of us here on the board, have asked for updates on possible transit center. And all of a sudden, I notice in today's presentation that you actually buried it in the last part of the report. Wouldn't that be appropriate to have the first item?
I'm sorry?
Wouldn't that be appropriate, that being the first item?
Well, or I could save the best for last. It's
There you go. There you go.
I'll start with the normal business, reporting on our services for January of 2021. For our fixed route services, we provided a little over 114,000 trips in January of 2022. So we're still in January. We're suffering from a driver shortage and having to cut some revenue service hours. So there's a slight decrease of almost 8% from January of 2021. The situation is looking better. Right now, we're starting to talk about, again, trying to add more service up here coming in the next couple of weeks. So there's a lot of good news on that front. Our contractor has been able to hire more operators and get them trained. So things are looking up as of right now. But, at the time of this report, we are still looking back at January of this year, and the situation was a little bit different, but we're moving in the right direction. For our ADA paratransit service, we provided about 7,800 trips in January. That's an increase of 38% over January of 2021. And for our specialized paratransit taxi choice option, we provided 72 rides in January, and that's down from December of 2021. But that is still a service that is being used pretty well. For our van pool services, we operated 7 vans in January with 38 active riders making 790 trips during January of 2021. So moving to the last page of the report, a project update, our spring 2022 service changes and the public process related to that is now live. We're still doing a virtual public process. One, because we're still kind of in a situation that we've been in for the last couple of years, but 2, because a virtual public process has really resulted in a lot more people participating and giving really good feedback and really good comments. So we're continuing this virtual option for the foreseeable future. But so now through next Thursday, March 10th, you'll be able to visit mmtransit.com. You can view a presentation video, and you can take a survey and provide comments. You can read the proposal, look at the proposal brochure, and provide your feedback. But basically, we have two main improvements for spring of 2022. We're looking to restructure Route 23, which currently operates from the Citadel Mall Transfer Center, goes out Galley and up Tut to Barnes, and then ends at Morning Sun Avenue, which is just west of Academy Boulevard off of Austin Bluffs. So it's a really long route, doesn't have very good frequency, every 60 minutes. The northern segment from Morning Sun to Constitution has the heaviest ridership. So we're looking to break the route up into 2 routes. So the northern segment will continue to be called Route 23. We're going to increase frequency to every 30 minutes, and we're going to operate 2 of our new battery electric buses on that segment. The southern segment will go from South Carefree down Tut Galley to the Citadel Mall Transfer Center, and that will be renamed Route 24. The second item is currently we operate Sunday level service on Memorial, Independence, and Labor Days. And Sunday level service is our worst service. We have fewer routes operating, and we don't have good frequency on those routes, and we don't have any evening service. And a lot of our customers use our services on those holidays. They're still working, they're still out in the community. So, Memorial Day and Labor Days are always on Mondays. So we're proposing to operate weekday level service on those 2 holidays. And Independence Day is kind of floats from year to year. So whatever day the 4th of July is on, weekday, Saturday or Sunday, we'll operate that appropriate level of service on that day. And if approved, both of these items will be implemented on Sunday, April 24th. And then the next item, so we had the pleasure of presenting to City Council last Tuesday during their joint session, and presented what's going to be a cooperation agreement, kind of forming a public-private partnership between Mountain Metro Transit, which is an entity of the City of Colorado Springs, our city's parking enterprise, the Colorado Springs Urban Renewal Authority, and Norwood Development Group to develop a new multimodal transportation center at the northeastern corner of Nevada and Pikes Peak. So it's basically going to be the southern part of that block, the same block that the city auditorium is on. And currently there's a surface parking lot there that's owned by Norwood. So this cooperation agreement, there's money identified to kind of do concept planning and schematic design for the first phase, and then to try to identify the needs and inform the design process moving forward. So this is this is a huge step. This is what we've been trying to do for 23 years and 8 efforts to identify a new location. And this is going to be a high quality facility with multiple uses, transit, parking, office, retail, hotel space, whatever it ends up being from the private side. But, we're really glad to get to this point. I'd be able, or I'd try to answer some questions, but I'm certainly able to try to answer whatever comes available. I will say, if you want more background, I can put the link in the chat to the City Council website where you can read about the cooperation agreement. You can read the memo to council, which gives some background, and you can view the presentation. So I'll drop that in the chat, and you can view that at your leisure.
Any questions for Brian? I've got one. Larry, you want to go?
Yeah, I've got one. Brian, I just want to make a comment. I think this particular site that you have come up with, I think is probably the best site of all the sites that you have talked about over the last 1.5, 2 years. With this rate being down in the center of the city, I think this will work out to be the prime location and a prime place for transit for the city of Colorado Springs.
Yeah, I agree. It is a great location. It's right where a lot of the energy is downtown. It's along Pikes Peak Avenue and close to Tejon, which are signature streets. And the good thing is that it's only catty corner basically to our existing transit terminal. So the impacts to our our customers and the system will be minimal.
Do you have any timetable when, and I get, you're really just in the start of it, but do you have any timetable when this might actually be activated and put into operation?
Sure. Yeah, preliminarily, once we get through all of these steps that are needed, we're kind of looking at 2026, 2027 for operation. Sorry about that. Did you all hear that? So 2026, 2027.
Brian, well, I'm glad to see that you come up with a place, and the downside is it moves it away from that intermodal discussion we had during the relocation study thing. But I think this is a good centralized location as well. So a good deal. You mentioned about the going forward on the design and everything. Was any of the concept designs and the discussions that we had during that location study several years ago, I hope none of that concepts and stuff are wasted on whatever this new property, what the shape this new property will take.
No, the relocation study that we did in 2016 and 2017, that really helped inform this process. So we're still looking at a premier transportation center with amenities that our current terminal doesn't have. Space for Mustang, the intercity CDOT service, Greyhound service, bike share, scooters, all of that. Sorry, maybe we should have talked about this at the beginning. I wouldn't have. But yeah, all of the items that were identified in that study will be carried forward to this.
Okay, great. Thank you. Because there was some good discussions about what a ideal center would look like, and I'd hate to see that discussion wasted. So
yeah, and if you do view the presentation from the city council website, you'll see that we're looking at a situation similar to what Denver Union Station has, where there will be a center island with bus berths all around it, and kind of like airport gate waiting areas that are heated or air conditioned, so you can wait at that gate for your bus to arrive. So it's similar to that.
Okay. Sounds like it's almost old beer 30 for you with the.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's great. I'm glad to hear the good news. We saw it in the paper, and I'm glad to know that we're moving forward. So that's a good thing.
Great.
Thanks for all the hard work you guys put into that.
Sure. Thank you. And I'm sure we'll be giving regular updates as we move forward.
Thanks. Any other questions for Brian on the transit?
Yes, this is Tamara. Brian, could you explain a little bit about the private-public partnership, really more of the ownership? What, I know the land is owned by Norwood, is that correct? And so what are we, the public entities, bringing to the table, and what kind of ownership do we have on the facilities?
Well, yeah, I think that's a great question. A lot of that will still be worked out, but you're right. I mean, this site is owned by Norwood, and we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for their cooperation, because it is their property. I think as we move forward and get through this concept schematic design phase, we'll then move into other cooperation agreements that will be necessary. There will be Federal Transit Administration funding and CDOT funding with this to help with our side. There will be, however, the Urban Renewal Authority items are dealt with, and how the private property owner pays for their pieces. All of that will be worked out in the future. But, you know, yeah, the P3 is something that is kind of new to the city, and we will work through it. And we're all excited partners in this journey. But, you know, obviously there will be three main components, and two of them will be public and one will be private. So we'll all work through that together.
You know, sorry, just a quick follow-up question. You know, a lot of other sites that we thought we had and were negotiating and they fell through. Like, in your opinion, what is the probability of this one going through and we do get a transit station in 26, 27?
Well, I'm very confident. I mean, this is the farthest we've ever come before. I think all partners are very optimistic, and we want to see this happen. And so that's, we're all feeling very, very confident at this point.
All right, thanks, Brian.
Sure.
All right, any other questions for Brian on this subject? Okay, thanks again, Brian. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item number 7B, change order monthly report. It's in your packet. It's an information only item. Anybody have any questions with item 7B? Yes, ma'am, Gail.
Mr. Chair, this is Gail Sturdom at City Colorado Springs. I did want to point out on the city's change order log on the top, I do see that there's an error in that top row underneath the change order log. You can see that somebody's put in there, I think I just missed it, that they put in there about a change order for Lucky Dog. That actually is a maintenance change order, and it is correct down in the second part of that section.
Okay. Oh. Okay. Thank you, Gail. All right, any other questions on that? All right, we'll move on. Item 7C, quarterly reports from member governments. Rick, you want?
These are the quarterly reports for the fourth quarter of 2021. As is required by the comprehensive IGAs to be submitted within 50 calendar days after the end of each calendar quarter. So we have 5 reports attached, and I'll be glad to take any questions if you have any.
I'd just like to point out particularly for some of our newer members, this report, a lot of work goes into this, but it's also a great reference document for you and the constituents and the people that you interact with about what's going on in the city. And so this becomes a very good reference product if you have any questions from anybody. So I would recommend you hang on until the new one comes out. Right. Seeing none, we'll move on to item 8, administrative actions and reports. Report on recent board actions. Rick?
As you can see from the memo, the city contracts, county contracts were approved by the board. The 3 engineering cost estimate contracts and the 3 for the city, 1 for the county were approved by the board. The revision to the CAC bylaws and the reorganization of the CAC was postponed at the request of Manitou Springs Mayor John Graham. Also, Chair Holly Williams added the director of the staff to provide the CAC with 2 additional items of information to take into consideration: the annual sales tax contribution from City of Manitou Springs and what is the best number of at-large alternate positions to have on the CAC. So we'll get to that in the next item on the agenda. But what was, and the board selected number 12 in my memo. The board selected 2017 as the new base year for the maintenance of effort provision. So that's now a revised board policy number 11, showing that the year 2004 base year was changed to 2017. And then what the Chairman Godfrey asked a few minutes ago about the update on the legislation of interest to the PPRTA. There were two bills that were of interest to the PPRTA. The first was House Bill 22-1062. This is a bill that would eliminate the sales tax on prepared food. The board was inquiring if there was a fiscal note, and as of last month, there wasn't, because this would impact not only the state sales tax, but RTA sales tax and the sales tax of lots of entities throughout the state. Beverly estimated it would be at a minimum 10% reduction for us. And as you recall, our 2022 budget is 150 million. The board asked the board attorney, Jennifer Ivey, to prepare a carve out to ask the board's consulting lobbyist, Dan Bland, to request as an amendment via the board sponsors. We haven't really heard back from Dan yet. Hope to hear from him shortly on that, if he was successful. But he also indicated that his interpretation of the odds of this passing were less than 50%. So we're waiting to hear from him no later than next Wednesday, and hopefully sooner, the status, because we assume he's checking on this daily. So that's the status of House Bill 1062. The second one, House Bill 22-1055, is regarding elimination of sales tax on feminine hygiene products and diapers. The board decided not to take a position on this bill. So that's, for us, that's off the table. So the only bill we're following is the House Bill 1062. So next month I'll have an update after the board hears from Dan Bland, consulting lobbyist, next Wednesday. Questions?
All right. We'll go into item 8B, revision of the CAC bylaws, having to do with that discussion. And since Larry was the one that presented to the board, I'll let him lead this one off.
Larry Tobias, Vice Chairperson of the CAC. As Jim indicated, I presented the CAC report at the PPRTA meeting last month. Everything went along very well until we got into the discussion of the makeup of the CAC. And so we got into a little bit of discussion, and Chairman Williams asked us, and also the Vice Chairman, really, both of them asked the CAC to review this again to see if we could make another recommendation as far as the composition of the different membership categories. The main hang-up seemed to be Manitou Springs, the number for Manitou Springs, because several of the, as indicated on this spreadsheet that we have, some of us said 1, some said 2. So there was discussion at the board, and that was one thing that they really want us to look at. And then, of course, the other item, Green Mountain Falls, I guess the best way to describe it is they are not happy with having just one member. And that follows up with an email that Rick just gave every one of us today. And that is that, they're more interested in trying to stay with, 2 members on the board. They were facilitating back and forth as to whether One of them would be permanent, one of them would be at large. In this latest email, they indicated that they could possibly accept one of the at-large members being available, you might say, to a person that would represent Green Mountain Falls. The other three small cities, Rama, Callahan, and yeah, just the other two, actually, Rama and Callahan, both of them are satisfied with just having one representative, on the board, dedicated representative. So the discussion that we need to do today is two things. Number one, discussion about Manitou Springs as to whether it would be more appropriate, whether it's 2 members or 1 member, and Green Mountain Falls, again, whether it's appropriate for 2 members or 1 member. Now, in our previous discussions, we had sort of broken up the different cities into 3 categories. The large being Colorado Springs and El Paso County. Manitou Springs, sort of fell into the middle when you looked at both their population and also the amount of revenue that they bring in. And then the other 3 cities, Rama, Green Mountain Falls, and Callahan, population-wise and revenue-wise, are much smaller. And so if you remember our previous discussion last month, we had sort of broken it up into those 3 categories. At this point, what I'd like to do, if it's all right with Jim, is just open it up to the committee and see what your comments and thoughts are as far as, and well, let's say, Richard, I'm gonna have Rick pop in right now too, because he also has some comments relative to the discussion that occurred at the board.
Thank you, Larry. So I distributed by email because it came in mid-morning, and I've handed out hard copies here at the meeting. The input from the board trustees of the town of Green Mountain Falls, they had a meeting last night. So you have that in front of you, and they've labeled it option 2A. So we now have option 1, 2, 2A, and 3. Number 3 is hack. So we have 4 option packages. We also have the chair's comment from the last board meeting asking the CAC to focus on what's the best number of alternates. And her reference for that is my comment to her in the prep meeting in advance of the board meeting, where I shared with her and the vice chair that from my unresearched memory, that we normally have 1 to 2 alternates out of the 4 who don't get to vote every meeting on average. If we increase, and as you can see, options 1 and option 3 increase the alternates from 4 to 6 or to 5. My concern that I shared with her, that she's asking me to share with you, is that if we have 1 to 2 alternates each meeting now, that get the materials, read the materials, talk to whomever, do whatever research they want, show up for the meeting, either Zoom or in person, and they can't vote, if that non-voting factor is increased from the current 1 to 2 on average to 3 to 4 alternates each meeting that can't vote. It was my suggestion to her, and it's her suggestion to you, to consider, is that fair to the volunteers to waste their time to do all the prep for the meeting, show up for the meeting, and then can't vote? So I guess the bottom line to this, my comment here is, please consider whether or not increasing alternates from 4 to 5 or 6 is best for their time. My conclusion is it's not. my conclusion is 4 alternates is a good number. So, and my final comment is you now have 4 prepackaged options. Please consider a process where you would break this down into the 3 component parts of the option packages, which are Manitou, 2 versus 1, and go around the table and on Zoom and ask people to say either 2 or 1. That build your own package via the component parts. So the 3 component parts are Manitou, 2 versus 1, alternates 4, 5, or 6. And do you want an even or odd number of voting members? Remember, the alternates don't vote unless there's absences of the voting members. So those are the 3 component parts: Manitou 2 versus 1, alternates 4, 5, or 6, and even or odd number of voting members. So what I'm throwing out on the table for the consideration is vote on these in their 3 component parts, build your own package instead of having a 4 to 4 to 4 to 4 vote on the 4 packages.
Richard?
I have very strong opinions on most things, including this. And I expressed it at the last meeting, and the El Paso County Highway Advisory Commission. Let's deal with the very first item, 1 or 2 for Manitou Springs. And we voted unanimously in opposition to Manitou Springs maintaining 2 candidates. We felt they should go to 1. And one of the reasons I know that I stated or felt was that we are encouraging small unities to join PPRTA. We think it's a good thing. Leaving Manitou Springs at 2 is going to push us to higher numbers than I think necessary. And I don't think Manitou Springs comes anywhere near what Colorado Springs does, and even El Paso County. So, but that was the vote of our El Paso County's Highway Advisory Commission unanimously. It was our vote by the members here today. And I put that as the strongest thing. Secondly, a new item has been presented by you, Rick, which is the question of what is fair to the alternates. And I agree with what you said. Now the Highway Advisory Commission has not reviewed that. I don't think we necessarily have to do that. But my position would be strongly in agreement with you. Every one of these alternates is that have volunteered and gives their service. They deserve to be heard. And frankly, as much as possible, they deserve to vote. And I think that we should not we should not increase the number that are not allowed to vote. And therefore, I think we should stay with the 4, as you have stated. I agree. When we come to the last item, I'm not quite sure I understand it, so I won't comment on that.
So I think that the third item I was mentioning was even versus odd number of voting members. Under the textbook theory, you want an odd number so you don't have a tie vote. But historically, I can't remember when we've ever had a close vote that was a 1 vote margin. So Historically, I don't think it's a very important item, even versus odd. Textbook would say you need an odd number, but historically, this group hasn't had close votes.
I am a pragmatic person, so anyway, I don't think it makes much difference, and I would just soon keep the numbers down. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
I think, just a minute, Scott, Carlos, you had your hand up first.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. This is more of a process statement here. The CAC has already rendered a decision on the composition of the CAC, made that recommendation to the board of directors. They've come back and asked us to reconsider. And again, this is just for the process here. Depending on the direction that we're going to go, I may make a motion here to rescind our positive recommendation from last month. And that's because we've already made a decision, and to open that decision up again would require some new information. So I just wanted to just point that out. I'd like to go ahead and just make that point, and I'll put this in the chat box, what I'm going to propose is my motion here. But again, I just want us to follow the process that if we're going to rescind our decision from last month, I would like to put that into the record, and then there would be a new motion perhaps that would then provide a new numbers for our board of directors as far as the composition of the CAC. So thank you.
Rick.
I'm agreeing with Carlos. I think Robert's rules would require that there to be a motion to reconsider. The motion to reconsider would have to be from a member who made the positive motion, the 13-2 positive motion last month. So, so that would have to be the first vote that would receive the motion to reconsider would have to receive a majority vote. We have 16 members that I've counted so far, unless Karen Asplin has joined us. So we would need a minimum of 9 to approve a motion to reconsider. Then a second motion or set of motions would be on how to either pick the elements of your package or for the CAC to pick one of the 4 packages. And the reason for the motion to reconsider is because we do have new information. We have a 4th package of an option from Green Mountain Falls, and we have the comment from the board chair.
Okay, Scott, and then I've got some comments.
I'm not ready to make a motion yet, but what seems to me, there was pretty overwhelming majority favored option 1. And I think I would be amenable to altering option 1 to just reduce the number of at-large alternates from 6 to 4. That still keeps you at an odd number of voting members. And I think that addresses pretty much everyone's concerns. I know Manitou would like 2 votes, but I've got to believe that their revenue and population is nowhere near the other 2 entities where they would deserve 2 votes versus 1. So that's where I would like to see this go.
All right. If I may, I'll come back to you, John. I'd like to address the comments on Manitou, if I may, and Richard's comments. First of all, if you look at the revenue that is generated among the member governments, Manitou is number 3. If you look at the ratio of revenue to population, they are hugely greater in terms of their contribution, especially during the summer with all the retail. I mean, 90% of their town is retail. And if you look at their budgets in terms of what projects they spend and what they spend it on, it impacts the community a lot more than what, and I'm nothing personal against any of the other communities, but a lot more than what Green Mountain Falls, Rama, and Cowhan in terms of revenue brought to the table and the size of the projects and the stuff that goes on. The other thing that the comment, and it was passed out from Green Mountain Falls, has a fallacy, in my opinion. It is assuming that an at-large member would, one, be filled by a member of Green Mountain Falls, two, that at-large member would vote for and be a proxy to Green Mountain Falls. The purpose of an at-large member is to represent the entire county, not a specific entity. And so I think that the premise of which could provide more representation for smaller towns is a fallacy in the thinking in terms of an at-large member. And when you look at what's going on in the three major size entities, does a person like Green Mountain Falls need 3 members or 2 at-large members compared to a community like Manitou? The other thing I wanted to make, just to go on record, is that Mayor Graham from Manitou requested the board not make a decision, delay it a month and send it back to the CAC. So addressing why we're redoing this, he did request a delay of a month to review these other facts. So and then on the even odd, I agree with Rick. To my knowledge, we've never had a close vote that we're having an even number or an odd number that I can remember ever really made a difference. So I'm personally neutral on it, but and I agree with the alternates. They're non-voting members to begin with, but to have people come to the meeting, volunteer to do stuff, we don't need more alternates, in my opinion. So I would vote that way. But anyway, John.
Thanks, Rick. I'm concur with Chairman Godfrey's comments. Manitou Springs, while it's certainly not El Paso County or Colorado Springs, is a much larger entity than Rama, Green Mountain, or Calhoun. And the revenue dollars that they bring to the table is significantly more than the others. Therefore, I would propose that Manitou absolutely have 2 votes, given a proportionate representation to what they contribute to the PPRTA versus the smaller towns. Normally, I like to see odd numbers on boards, but I know in my time serving on this board, as Rick and Jim have said, I've never seen a vote get that close that, you know, we duked it out over a tie. So but I really think that comparing Manitou to Rama, Green Mountain Falls, and Calhoun is a bit disingenuous.
All right, has anybody else got any comments? I haven't, Carlos, you still got your hand up, or is it raised again?
Yeah, I raised it up again. Again, this goes back to the process here. Since this was direction from the board of directors to reconsider, I think was their wording, or to think about this, they did table it. So the board of directors did ask us to do this. I did vote positively at last month's meeting, so to vote in favor of this. Again, we did make a decision. And just to clarify, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion here. What this is going to do is just undo the decision we made. It doesn't say we don't like the previous decision. It just says we're going to undo it. And then we're going to open up the purchase decision again, once again. We may decide we may not do anything. We may decide to give it back to the board of directors and let them decide. We may come up with a new set of options, or we may actually just settle on the old options. So this again is just respect for the process and the request by our board of directors. So with that context, I move to rescind the motion of the February 2nd relating to the positive recommendation to the board for option number 1 on the composition of the Citizens Advisory Committee.
All right, we've got a discussion. Joan's got a comment, I think. Hang on just one second.
Okay,
Okay, first of all, on who was the maker and the seconder of last month's vote? Because according to Robert's rules, they're the ones that should be making this motion to reconsider. Because they are the ones, in fact, and I think I either made the motion or I'm a seconder, but I can't remember. But according to Robert's rules, Carlos's motion would be out of order.
let me back up. Point of order here, Mr. Chair, if I can just clarify. There is in Robert's Rules of Order, a slight distinction between a motion to reconsider and a motion to rescind. A motion to reconsider typically occurs during the meeting. So if during our February 2nd meeting, we realize we made a mistake and we need to do something, we can do a motion to reconsider at that time. For a motion we have, that's during the meeting. After the meeting is over, a month later has passed and we realize, well, maybe we have new information. We got to relook at this because something has happened. In this case, the board of directors has given us direction here. The motion would be actually to rescind the motion. And since I wrote it in the positive, I'd have to go through and double check here my rules, but I believe anybody can make a motion to rescind the motion. So it was previously adopted, and I don't believe it has to be the first or seconder. It just has to be someone who is actually in the majority or voted for the majority for that motion. And I do recall I did vote for option number 1. I did vote positively for it. I was not one of the nays.
Joe?
But you know what, Joan, if you want to go ahead and make this motion, I will,
Carlos,
I can take off the table of, and you can go ahead and make this motion. It does not
Yeah,
matter. to me.
Carlos, with all due respect here, we're splitting hairs that don't need to be split, whether we consider or reconsider or rescind. Do we have the names?
Yeah, you made a motion. Richard second.
Okay, on that vein, then I will move to rescind the CAC recommendation of February concerning the breakout of the CAC membership.
I wasn't at the meeting. I can't second it.
I'll
Richard.
second it, Ed Dills.
Yeah. Now, do we need to have Richard second that since he was the?
No, I don't think so.
No, he doesn't have to second, but the maker of the motion should do that.
Okay.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to rescind last month's decision on the makeup of the CAC. Ed Dills. Any further discussion on the motion to rescind?
Move
Okay.
for the question.
All those in favor of rescinding last month's decision regarding CAC makeup, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
All those opposed, say nay.
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 Okay, let's do a roll call. Would Jessica, would you take that, please, or?
All right, so we'll start with yay. We have Scott.
Yay.
Yay. Tamara.
Nay.
Karen is absent. Richard.
Nay.
David. Dave Zelenak. Did he not leave the line? I don't see him. He might have stepped away. So then Larry.
Yes.
Okay. Ann Nichols.
Yes.
Steve Hart.
Yes.
Ann Esch.
I should probably abstain because I'm from Green Mountain Falls.
That doesn't make any difference.
Craig.
I vote aye.
Bruce.
Yes.
Joan.
Aye.
And Ryan.
Nay.
Carlos.
Yes.
Okay.
You
And
missed
Rick.
me.
Admit Ed Dills.
Oh, yep, there's a whole other column. Sorry about that. Rick.
Rick Hoover?
He posted his mic wasn't working.
Okay.
Rick Hoover, we can see you. Can you?
Thumbs up for
get-
yes.
Yeah, thumbs up or thumbs down. Thumbs up means yes to rescinding last month. Thumbs down means no, don't rescind it.
Okay,
Thumbs up, thumbs
got
up.
it.
He's
Okay.
got a thumb up.
Ed Dills
Yes.
and Jim.
I
Oh,
I
you're
don't know whether I
abstaining.
wasn't there, so I can't.
Oh.
So that's 1, 2,
I have 10, 3 and 1.
5,
So do I.
7, 8, 9, 10. Yep, 10 for yay
And we
1,
needed 9, so
2, 3 for nay.
10, 3 and 1,
10
is that
to
what? So the motion to rescind passed with a minimum of 9 required and had 10.
All right. Given that and the new information that has been presented and the comments that have been presented, do we have any further discussion that anyone would like to see? Ed, you got your hand up, and then Richard.
Yes, last month I supported number 2, made the motion to accept it. I still believe in that. I won't go into the detail that you said so gracefully today, Jim, but I think based on what you've shared with us about Manitou, that they are deserving of the extra vote. I do like the idea of having 4 alternates versus 5 or 6. So I'll definitely be in support of the second option.
Hey, Richard.
I remain opposed to Manitou Springs. I agree that Manitou Springs is significantly different from the smaller jurisdictions. I would also say they are significantly different from the larger jurisdictions of Colorado Springs and the county of El Paso, and perhaps in greater out of line that way as opposed to the other, and maybe not. It doesn't matter. I just make that as a comment. However, the one thing that I would, I think I would like to support would be to pick up on my colleague here from Colorado Springs. And I think reducing the number of at-large alternates from 6 to 4 would be a good idea. Thank you.
Jim?
Oh, Greg, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just wanted to respond or clarify to a couple of things that I heard earlier. First of all, I was at the Green Mountain Falls meeting last night, and my understanding is not that Green Mountain Falls wants the CAC to kind of hold a chair clandestinely for Green Mountain Falls, and it will have our name on it kind of in pencil. But there should be sufficient at-large regular seats that there's, I think, more opportunity for an additional volunteer from Green Mountain Falls. You know, for example, right now we have 2 people from Green Mountain Falls that are interested to be able to serve. That's really what they were looking for. And I will say, as far as the even odd, one of our trustees is a finance person. She found it deeply offensive that any group of people that was organized to cast votes should have an even number. And so that's why we came up with the alternate suggestion that we did, which had 6 regular alternates and also had 2 for Manitou Springs. So we didn't have an issue for that. And 4 alternates. So it was kind of an amalgamation. So, but I just wanted to clarify, particularly regarding the additional seat for Green Mountain Falls.
Okay, and I, Rick, go ahead, and then I will make a real quick comment.
Craig, I just wanted to clarify because I talked to Nate, the clerk, to clarify in the second line of the email, the at-large members to 6. That's the at-large regular voting members from 5 to 6. That's not increasing the alternates from 4 to 6. That's
Right.
at-large regular members from 5 to 6. Okay, just
Yeah,
want to clarify.
I may have misspoken. Yes, 6 at-large regular members and 4 alternates.
Just for the record, I hear everybody and then we'll make a comment. I think that also when we look at how communities have appointed and supported the CAC. We've got the county with the HAC, the city with the CTAB. The other member governments, in a lot of cases over my period of time here, the member positions or the representatives on the CAC have not been from those communities. They've been for people that are interested in the RTA, interested in what we're doing and this kind of stuff. And so we're kind of at the first time that I can remember that Green Mountain Falls has had more than 2 people that are interested in being on the CAC. And while Cowhand, Rama, and Manitou, same as applied with Rama sometimes. We've had members that live in the Springs that have represented Rama. So we'll go with whatever the CAC wants to go with, but I think that just to be for the record, that Manitou's usually always had their representatives filled by themselves and members of the community. So just putting facts out there. So go ahead, Ann.
Well, this is Ann. I would say you're probably right. Reb represented Green Mountain Falls for many, many years, and they couldn't get anybody that was interested. But for the last several years, I served with Reb. And then because I rented an apartment in Woodland Park, I was kicked off the CAC because I wasn't in El Paso County, but I am again now. And so I don't really care, but my concern has always been, not that I would ever represent just a place, but this is the Rural Transportation Authority. And we don't want to forget we have rural roads. That, to me, the at-large people can look at it really widely and not feel like they're just looking at their own piece of earth. Okay, that's all I want to say. And good luck. I think you're all working really hard. Thank you.
Scott.
I'm ready to make a motion unless there's other discussion.
All right, well, let me throw this out before you do that. Let me see your paper. Rick suggested, so from listening to the comments and considering everything, there were, as Rick broke down, 3 major things that people are leaning towards. One is representation for Manitou. 2, the number of at-large regular positions on the thing, and the other one whether it's an even or odd number. So is that and alternates? Okay, so should we consider those in one amendment and then possibly have multiple amendments, or should we vote on those individually and then formulate an amendment from those 3 separate discussions?
Vote on them individually.
All right, we have 1 vote for voting individually. Anybody else got any comments?
Yeah, this is Carlos, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I'm just trying to get in the chat box here what options we're considering. I believe, if I heard it right, there are 4 options and it didn't paste properly. So I'm trying to fix that. But I wanted just to be clear, what options are under consideration? I'm just a little lost as that is. And it could be, maybe I misunderstood. Maybe we need to go around the rooms. It was suggested, I think, by Rick to go ahead and just do a poll and just get everybody's opinion on that and just have a straw poll. That was another option on what the composition should be. So again, I'm just trying to understand what options we're considering.
Joan?
Yeah, I don't think we need to vote individually. I think if we look at what's here before us. And basically what seems to be the will of the board of Chairman Williams would be that Chair Godfrey's option, while it is an even number, is the desired number for the CAC, and not having more than 4 at-large alternates. And so keeping the numbers as Mr. Godfrey proposed.
Okay, I'm not hearing a lot of discussion for either side. We've got some wants to do it individually, some otherwise. So I think I'll just make a decision here. So I think we'll let Scott make a recommendation. We can either shoot it down or accept it and go from there and move on. Scott?
I move that we reapprove option 1 from the last meeting with the change that we would reduce at-large alternates from 6 to 4.
I will second that motion. Richard.
Okay, so we have a motion to modify option 1, which was the CTAB option on our thing, reducing at-large alternate from 6 to 4. And that would change the total from 21 to 19 and giving an odd number. Did I repeat that correctly? That motion is on the floor and has been seconded. So let's try a verbal first, and if we have to, we'll do something different. So all those in favor of the motion as presented, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay.
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 I'm going to call for division, please.
Back to you.
My name again?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Here we go. Okay, so going down the line, Scott,
Aye.
Tamara,
Aye.
Karen is not on, Richard,
Aye.
Dave, I believe is off. Rick Hoover. Thumbs down,
Yay or
it's a
no?
nay.
He's a
Nay.
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 Ed Dills.
Nay.
Nay. Jim,
Nay.
Larry,
Yay.
Ann Nichols,
No.
Steve Hart,
No.
Ann Hesh.
I don't think I should vote.
Abstain.
Craig,
Who's left?
Craig,
Craig?
muted.
Oh,
Yep. Aye.
Bruce,
Aye.
Cindy's not on, Joan,
Joan is nay.
Ryan,
Aye.
Carlos.
Carlos,
Carlos. still? Yeah.
where'd he go?
Oh. Uh-oh. Hold on a second. I don't see Carlos on anymore. We lost Carlos.
Lost Carlos.
So with that, it's 1, 2, 3, 4,
6,
5,
7,
6,
1.
7 yes, and
7 yes.
6, 7, 6, 1.
All right, it looks like the vote of those present that voted is 7 nays for the modified option 1 that Scott presented, 6 nays and 1 abstain.
7 yes.
Yays, I'm sorry.
6.
Yay, nay, yay. 7, 6, 1. All right. All right, well, motion carries. So we'll present it to the board and see what they say. Thank you all. Sorry to have to go through that again.
What-
But that's kind of what we were told to do. So
What was the outcome? Can you tell us again?
Carlos is just never joining. I don't know if that matters.
nah,
You what?
He's back.
But wait a minute, he's just.
Up to the chair. There he is. He's back.
Carlos, you there? Where'd he go? Okay,
He's
No, he keeps
closed.
dropping off.
I'm having a problem.
all right.
Mr. Chair, we have voted. Please stay with it and not modify again, particularly since your vote was in the negative.
Mr. Chair, sorry, I had a technical difficulties and lost connectivity. I'm back on.
That's all right. We just voted for Scott's modified opinion 1, and I'm not sure what Richard's comment was directed at me.
All right.
But so we'll go with the vote as presented. 7 yeas, 6 nays, and 1 abstain.
Did you want my vote? on
No,
that
we've
motion?
already voted. Sorry.
Okay,
All right. Thank you for your time. Yeah. Yeah. All right, item 9, agenda topics for next meeting. Anybody have anything? Don't see any burning issues. We'll see what the board gives us. On communications, I have one if no one else does, or in addition to what someone may have. Gail. Okay,
Mr. Chair, Gail Sturdivant, City Color Springs, a couple items. I wanted to let you know I will be joining you all remotely next month as I will be on vacation, but I'm not going to miss my time with you all. So bear with me, but I will join by Zoom. I did want to let you know, I mentioned last month when we had the Black Forest Road real estate contract that I thought that was our last big one that we had. We will have one more large real estate item coming next month for your consideration. It does not impact the progress towards construction, but I did want to just let you know. And then the last thing, I have a big item, and I don't know if Scott from the city CTAB wants to add on to it. City staff did go through CTAB last night and has gone through what's our preliminary PPRTA 3 capital project list. Currently, our list is not fiscally constrained, and we have it identified in A, B, and B, looking to be able to finalize that through when we go through fiscal constraints and further regional collaboration with our member government. So just mention that. So it is out there if you see something on that, and we're happy to share that information if you'd like. Also, I'll be presenting that information to the city council next Monday. And that's it.
okay, thank you. The one comment I have, El Paso County periodically has a event called the Citizens College. And the purpose is to educate the members of the public about what and how the county does its business. There is one is scheduled coming up between May 4th and June 15th. There is a combination of Saturdays and some weeknights. Is a total of like 5 sessions, I think. So if I have some little flyer card-like things. It's got a QR code on the back of it that it'll take you to our website with the Citizens Outreach Group website with the times, the locations, and the subjects of those 5 events. But if you would like more information, either reach out for me or go to the El Paso County website and Google Citizens College, and you'll get some information on it. I attended it back in 2016, and I thought it was awesome. Joan?
Yeah, when I was on the Citizens Advisory, we had started that. It is an excellent understanding of the county and how it differs from the city. I would highly recommend it. I'm hoping, I don't know how it's going to be presented this time, but I'm hoping in the past, we've had the elected officials there, the sheriff has been there and a host of other folks, as well as the directors from the various agencies or groups within the county. So I would absolutely highly recommend it. It's a great program.
Very similar to what we're having this year as well. So tour of the Citizens College, the tour of the jail, the coroner's office. So a lot of good stuff. Any more
Totally
information?
agree.
Yeah,
It's a great opportunity.
It sure is. All right. So any more communications? All right. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All right, great. All those in favor say aye. I said aye. We're going.
Aye.
Aye, there we go.
Aye.
Thank you.